जो सुचित साहब, एक एक विजुअल, एक तरह का स्पेसिफिक टाइप ऑफ विजुअल मैं जब भी देखता हूँ, तो एक तरह से बहुत डिसअपॉइंटमेंट होती है। और कनाडा में बहुत ज़्यादा आता वो विजुअल है, भारत के झंडे को डेनिग्रेट करना। आपको किसी पॉलिटिकल इशू है कोई तरह का, वो समझ में आता है, लेकिन हमारे लिए हमारा फ्लैग हमारी पूरी कंट्री का रिप्रेजेंटेटिव है। तो उसके साथ जो इंसल्ट किया जाता है कनाडा में, वो उसके अगेंस्ट कैनेडियन गवर्नमेंट कुछ नहीं करती, कि उनको कोई फ़र्क ही नहीं पड़ता कि वो उनको सपोर्ट करते हैं।
ये इसमें इसमें दोनों चीजें हैं एक्चुअली। एक एक सेक्शन ऐसा है जिसको फर्क नहीं पड़ता, दूसरा सेक्शन ऐसा है जो उनको एक्चुअली सपोर्ट करते हैं। तो जो सपोर्ट करने वाला सेक्शन है उनको वोट्स दिखाई देते हैं, उनको इंटरनेशनल रैमिफिकेशंस इसके क्या होंगे वो नहीं दिखाई देते हैं। उनको इसमें जो इंटरनेशनल ग्लोबल स्टेज पर कनाडा की इमेज किस तरह खराब हो रही है वो नहीं दिखाई देता है। इसमें उनको सिर्फ ये दिखाई देता है कि हम किसी तरह से वोट कैप्चर कर लें, इनको खुश कर दें ताकि ये किसी तरह हमारी तरफ आ जाए। बेसिकली ये है। लेकिन दूसरी तरफ एक बहुत बड़ी हिपोक्रेसी भी है। आज ही एक ग्रुप जिसने कनाडा के फ्लैग को डेसिक्रेट किया और डेथ टू कनाडा ये चांट किया, आज कनेडियन गवर्नमेंट ने उस ग्रुप को एज अ टेररिस्ट ग्रुप डिक्लेयर कर दिया।
कहाँ
लेकिन
पे?
यही चीज ये चीज ऑटोवा में हुई थी। और इस वजह से जो है, बिकॉज वो कनाडा फ्लैग था, उसको उन्होंने एज अ टेररिस्ट ग्रुप डिक्लेयर कर दिया। लेकिन यही चीज, इट्स द एग्जैक्ट सेम थिंग। When this happens with the Indian flag, you do not take any action. You do not take, the perpetrators are not, accountable, are not held to account. But when the same thing happens, so with the Canadian flag, you do it. So this speaks of double standards. This speaks of, on one hand, you're saying, well, okay, they have, freedom of speech and freedom of expression. Well, uh, the as Dr. Jaishankar rightly said, right, there is a limit, or it's a misuse of the freedom of speech and the freedom of expression. And as a functioning democracy, if we are, and we are not a banana republic, we should be drawing those lines and saying, well, look, this is the line, and you do not cross it because it affects our relations, our goodwill, and our global, image and reputation is affected because of the actions that certain fringe elements within society take. So there are many things, right? So there is the double standards from the government side, which is saying, well, okay, if you do this to one flag, we will hold you accountable, but if you do this to another flag, we will not hold you accountable. And you can see this actually, this type of apathetic behavior throughout history, within the Indo-Canadian sort of landscape, right? How do you see this? You see this with RCMP's whole fiasco that happened with the Air India bombing case in 1985. It took them like 30 years to actually convict someone, and this, even after that, they walked scot free. There's instances of, I just posted this to actually LinkedIn yesterday, where I quoted Teddy Milowski. He was a Canadian journalist working for CBC, and I watched innumerable interviews with him. And I read his book, and so in the book he details on what missteps and what was, in any standard investigation of a crime of this stature. I mean, this is a crime which is the biggest aviation related terror attack before 9/11 in world history. So things need to be taken much more seriously than they were. But at the end of the day, there's an instance of someone saying, well, oh, the Prime Minister of Canada was actually calling the Prime Minister of India to express condolences on the lives that were lost. But the Prime Minister of India told the Prime Minister of Canada that, hey, these were not Indian citizens, these were Canadian citizens. But they were of Indian origin and of Indian background. And so, hey, who cares about them, right? That's the message we are getting. And then the exact same script is being repeated now when you have desecration of a flag, which belongs to a ethnic group. and you don't seem to care because hey, it's freedom of expression. And on the other hand, when it happens with the Canadian flag, you suddenly jump into action and say, well, okay, this is terrorism or activities of terrorism. So the double standards have been there through history, and इसका जो है असर इस बात पे पड़ रहा है कि आपको कोई कंट्री सामने जो आपसे डील करता है वो आपको सीरियसली नहीं लेता है, क्योंकि उसको पता है कि ना आपके पास कॉम्पिटेंस है कुछ प्रूव करने की, ना आप जो है उसको एज अ डेमोक्रेसी एंड एज अ फंक्शनिंग democracy as being part of the G7 nations, there are certain standards of uh, behavior that are expected from agencies. And when you don't adhere to those standards and you don't meet sort of the minimum requirements that are sought, people will stop taking you seriously. And this is, and we are seeing this. I'm afraid, with our reputation being taking a beating globally because of behavior of some of the people that are put in charge, and that should be of concern to all Canadians, not just Indo-Canadians but all Canadians that are that respect, love, and have sort of contributed towards Canadian society, right? And it's the people that make up the country. So at the end of the day, it's the reputation of the people, not just the country, right? Because the country is made up of the people. So